everybody, welcome to the video tutorial for the Jot It Down. I'm just going to go over the pieces that you will need for this project, and I will show the different options for the different things that you're going to need depending on which style you choose. So every style will need a number 10, a 10-inch number 5 zipper. You will have your card slot panel, your zipper pocket lining, the inside of your zipper pocket. This is your zipper facing. You will have two of this. These will be the back covers where you slide the side of the pocket into. This is the very back center of your lining. And then this is your outer panel. Now that's all you need for the standard version of the pattern. Like I said, for every version, you will have the same pieces for the lining. So all of these will be the same for every style, including the zipper. For the outer pocket, for the outer panel, if you're doing the snap tab, you will also need the snap tab piece, and you will need a snap. So I'm using a magnetic snap for my options here. If you're using the elastic, you will also need a length of, I use fold over elastic. As you can tell, there's one side that's a little bit shinier than the other side. So the shiny side is the top side. And then if you're doing the zipper version, you will also need a length of zipper. And that the length of that is provided for in the pattern as well. Some optional items that you will need. If you want, you can use some fabric glue. I have Fabric Tech here that I really like. For the zipper, some double-sided tape really helps to keep that zipper in place as you're stitching it around. And then if you want to round the corners on your covers, this tiny little piece right here, I provided this curved template that you can use to round the corners of your covers when you're putting that together. So yeah, that's all we need, and let's get started. Okay, now that we have all the pieces ready for our cover, we are going to go ahead and get started with the standard version. And what I've done is I've just gone ahead and fused all of the interfacings to all of the pieces before. So as you'll notice, it's about 1/2 inch shorter all the way around. And just go ahead and make sure you do that before you start the assembly process. That'll make it a little bit quicker as you go. Now for the, these are going to be the pockets that your cover will slip into. So for these two pieces, these are item C. There's C1 and C2. So I only did that because they are the same size piece, but they have different instructions. So the back, what is the back pocket? What will happen is you will just fold it in half, you compress it, and then you're gonna top stitch down this edge. So top stitch at 1/8 inch. And because that's all you have to do this pattern, I'm just gonna set it aside right here, and then I'm gonna make a pile and then go to the sewing machine and sew it all at the same time, so I'm not going back and forth. For your card slot panel, it's the same thing. They're all the panels are 11 inches high, so you're gonna take it, fold it in half. You can finger press it. You can take it over to the sewing machine, or sorry, not the sewing machine, the ironing board, and give it a press. And you're going to do the same thing. Now this is going to go on the left side, so you're going to top stitch down this folded edge. So I'm going to put that in my pile over here. The next piece we're going to do is the other pocket. And so for this, what you're going to do is, if you can see, I've also folded this one in half to mark the center point. And that's just going to help me with the lining for the zipper. So what you want to do is you want to open that up and take your zipper facing piece. You're going to flip it down, lining it up so it's along that fold. You want it, here, let me get my other pieces out of the way so it's a little bit easier to see. Okay, so lining it up along that fold, you want it about even distance from either side. That's probably around 1/2 inch, maybe 5/8 inch on either side. And then you're going to take a ruler and a pen, and you're going to mark your zipper box. So the zipper box is 8 inches long, and so this ruler I have here is 9 inches, so I'm just going to I know this is 10 inches and my ruler is 9 inches, so I'm lining this up here and starting 1 inch down and then just going to the end, and I know that that is an 8-inch line. So what I'm doing is 1 inch in, 1 inch down, stopping 1 inch from the other side. And then I'm going to move my ruler in about between 3/8 and 4/8. And I'll mark another line, same length. Just draw a box across there, a box across there. Now this is going to be your stitch line. So this is where you're going to stitch all the way around. In the center of that, I'm going to draw another line just down the center. Then I'm going to have angled lines out to the corner. So this is going to be my cut line, because what we're going to do, if you're not familiar with this zipper installation process, is we're going to stitch all the way around the outside box. When that's done, we're going to cut these inside lines, and then we're going to push this facing all the way through, turn it all the way through so that the pieces will be wrong sides together. So I like to get this lined up right here first, and again adding that to my sewing pile, and then we can move on to the next piece. So I'm going to put that over here. The next piece you will need is the center back lining. So what you're going to do on this one is you're just going to fold in each end, so it'll be on the left side and the right side. You're just going to fold in each end. You can press it if you want. And then at the sewing machine, you're just going to top stitch right down this side edge. So you're going to top stitch down this edge, and you're going to top stitch down this edge, and then this piece will be completed. So adding that to my pile. The last thing to do to get ready for the sewing machine, to get all that part done right now, is the zipper pocket prep. So what you want to do is you want to take your zipper pocket lining, and you're going to line it up so it's longer this way, shorter this way. I think it's 9 inches across this way. And you're going to lay your zipper down so the closed end is towards the right. So, or what I say is the closed end, but it's the flat end of the zipper pull. And then, so the open is this way. So if you can see, the flat end is here. And so when it's open, when you're open, it's in the center, so it's kind of hard to tell. But the open will be on this side, the closed will be on this side. You just want it facing this way when you lay it down. And that way your pocket is going to be, your zipper will be the right setup when it's installed. So what I like to do here is just go ahead and clip it all the way across. Okay, and then we're just going to baste this one in place right along this edge at about 1/8 of an inch. We just want to baste it and hold it in place. Our next step for this one, once we get that basted, we're going to take it and flip it to the other side and then clip it and baste it there, and then that will make our pocket. So we'll do that over at the sewing machine. But for now, these pieces are ready for the sewing machine, and let's go over there and we'll get these done. All right guys, here I am over at the sewing machine. I'm going to go ahead and get these stitches done on these pieces. And so for top stitching, I'm going to go to about a 3 or 3.5 for a top stitch length. And I'm just going to top stitch right along this folded edge. All right, this piece is done. We'll set that aside. Next, for the back pocket piece, same thing. We're going to top stitch along the folded edge. Okay, that one's done. Now for your center back panel, I've folded under both sides, and we're going to top stitch along both sides at 1/8 of an inch. Okay, for the front pocket, the one that's going to have the zipper pocket installed, what we're going to do is we're going to stitch along this outside box. So you can reduce your stitch length to about 2.5, starting and stopping at the beginning. We're going to stitch all the way around. Okay, so that is stitched all the way around. I just added a couple pins here just to help hold it in place while I was stitching so it didn't move. We will cut this center line back at the cutting table, but for now this piece is done. Now for the zipper pocket, we are going to stitch across this edge, basting it at about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so that's done. Now what you're going to do is you're going to flip the pocket over with this other piece, this other side of the zipper that's not, doesn't have anything attached to it. We're going to fold this up to the other end of the zipper lining, the zipper pocket lining. Okay, we'll clip that in place if you want to. You can also just hold it if you feel confident enough that you can stitch across evenly. You can just hold it and not clip it. And then we're going to do the same thing on this end, basting it at 1/8 of an inch from the edge. All right, so this is going to be our zipper pocket, as you can see, once it's opened here, if I can get my fingers in there. There we go. So it's like a little tube. The pocket will be laying this way inside of your composition notebook cover, and we will move on to the installation of it next. All right, so we're back at the cutting table. This is our center lining piece. This is done. We can put this to the side for now. Same for the back pocket piece. This is also done, top stitched along that left side. We will put that aside for now. The next item is the card pocket panel. And so this is going to be on the left side of your cover. When you open it up, it'll be on the left side. And so we're just going to mark the stitch lines for this for when we stick it on the next piece. Okay, to mark the lines on your card pocket panel, you're going to mark them according to the measurements in the pattern instructions. I'm left-handed, so I'm going to be working this way. You probably will be starting left to right. It's just a little bit easier for me to do it this way. I know it is at 1 inch. I know it is 3 1/4 is the next line, 5 1/2, 7 3/4, and then 10 inches, but since this ruler only goes to 9 inches, I know that is also 1 inch in from the other end. So those will be your stitch lines. You can just set that aside for now, and then you will use that once we get the zipper installed on the pocket piece. So I'm setting that aside. Now you have your zipper next. This is your zipper pocket and your front pocket panel. So what we want to do first is we want to cut these center lines. So you can use scissors or you can use a rotary cutter, but what you want to do is you want to cut down that center line. You can use a ruler if that helps. I usually just eyeball it. And then you're going to take scissors and cut on the diagonal out to the corner of the box that you stitched, getting as close as you can without cutting into your thread. And as you can see, I'm not cutting exactly on the line, and that's totally okay because, as I said, with this pin, it will disappear once you put some heat on it. and it's going to be on the inside so no one will see it anyway. And it's just for guide for you to help you know where to cut. Okay, so now that we have that hole cut, we're going to push this interfacing through the hole. So this can be a little tricky, but what we're going to do is we're going to push it through all the way around, and then you're going to iron it down. Usually what I like to do is I will iron one long side. So it's going to be like this when you get it through. What I will do is I will iron this side first, and then I will iron this side, trying to make sure your seams are, you know, nice and straight, pressing it as close to the stitch line so you have a nice fold line right there. Getting it nice and lined up, press that side. So I'll press one long side, then the other long side, and then I'll get the two short sides. I will flip it over and give it another nice press. So I'm going to take that to the ironing board and I will be right back. Okay, as you can see, I have it pressed nice and flat, wrong sides together on the back side. Now you can add a piece of double-sided tape on the inside here to help hold this down if you want. I often find it's not totally necessary, so that's just an option that's completely up to you if you want. Now what we need to do next is install the zipper pocket. So to do this, what I like to do is I will shake it so that the pocket is going up, because that's going to be the first side that we stitch. I know it seems a little bit backwards, but we want the pocket up with the zipper pull to the left when closed. And what you're going to do is you can use fabric glue here, or you can use double-sided tape. I'm just going to, if I can find where it starts, there we go. I'm just going to put a thin piece of double-sided tape along each side of the zipper. Okay. Making sure that's on nice and good. I'm going to take the paper off of the tape. Okay, now again, making sure, I'm gonna make sure my pull's kind of out of the way here in the center. Making sure it's towards the left when closed. Your zipper pocket is up. You're going to grab your zipper pocket panel, your outer panel, and you're going to, you want the fold in the center with the hole towards the bottom. And you're gonna center that over the zipper. So you want it centered as much as you can. You can kind of feel on the inside if it feels even. You can adjust side to side if you want to. If it feels, you know, too close to this edge and too far out this way, you can always adjust that. I just kind of press it in place to hold it. And this will get stitched down and it will look amazing. Right now it's a little bit still moving around because it's not, you know, it's just the double-sided tape holding it in place. So what we're going to do, our first step, again, you can pin this if you feel like you need a little extra stability before you go to sew it. But what we're going to do is we're going to top stitch down this bottom edge only. Again, making sure in the back your zipper pocket is flipped up and out of the way, because we do not want to stitch the pocket at this point. So just straight across the bottom, we're going to top stitch that. Okay, so I've top stitched that bottom edge, just starting and stopping at one end, going to the other end, only along the bottom. Now what I'm going to do is flip it over. I'm going to flip the pocket down. So make sure that this is just pulled down and nice and flat here. Sometimes the pocket will have a tendency to want to stick right here, and then you fold it down and then it gets caught in there, and then your zipper pocket is wonky when you try to use it. So just make sure that everything gets pushed to the bottom. Okay, flipping it back over. Now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch the other three sides. So right where we stopped right here, we're going to start again, stitch up, stitch all the way across, and stitch down. All right guys, here is the panel top stitched. the pocket panel stitched all the way around, if you can see that. Just double check your pocket, make sure it's lining up nice when you open it up, that nothing is wonky or like sticking up where it's not supposed to. If everything looks good, next thing we need to do is close the sides of the pockets. So what you're going to do is at the sewing machine, you're going to flip this outer piece back. You're going to stitch all the way down at about, I'd say about 3/8 of an inch in. Just double stitch across that, and then you can trim off any extra from that side once you do. Same thing on this side. You're going to stitch in about 3/8 of an inch, stitch it all the way down, and then trim off any extras on this side. Once you get that done, then you're going to fold it in half and top stitch along this top edge. So I will go do that and be right back. All right, so pocket is stitched, top stitched along that edge. Everything is looking good with the pocket itself. Open up. It's closed on the sides. As you can see on the inside, I stitched and then I just trimmed off a little bit of extra on each side. So that is good. Next thing we need to do for this panel, before this panel is complete, is install the card slot panel. So what you want to do is you want to flip this up. This can be a little bit tricky, so be careful. Make sure you get this pocket out of the way, because you do not want to stitch down or your pocket will be useless if you stitch that pocket in with this. So we're going to just hold this and flip everything up. So you're only working with this bottom piece. You'll have this weird kind of awkward little fold, but just make sure, the important thing is just make sure your pocket is up and everything is out of the way there. You are only working on this single piece below the zipper. So you're going to line this up, line the card pocket panel up at the bottom, at the raw edge of this front panel. Take your ruler and just measure to make sure it's even across. And so that is, let me see here. I think I need to lift this side up a little bit. So even though I'm saying line it up along the raw edge, you really want it to be lined up even with this, so that when you have the inside of your cover opened, it will be nice and even. This way, no one is going to see if this little bit is a little bit off. So this is the important thing. You just want to make sure that this is straight across. Once you have that, you can go ahead and clip it to hold it in place. Okay, and then we're going to take this to the machine, starting and stopping at each line. We're going to stitch down each one of these stitch lines. So stitching all the way across, just go ahead and take that to the machine, get those lines stitched, and then I will meet you back here. All right, so the zipper pocket is done. The card slots are installed. You can always double check just to make sure before you go any further, just make sure your card fits in each pocket. If it needs to be adjusted at all, now is the time to do that. You can just unpick a line if it's a little bit too tight and you want it a little wider. Again, making sure that the pocket was out of the way. And then once you have all that done, your all of your lining pieces are done. So what we need to do now is put the lining together. So you're going to take your two outside pocket pieces, your center lining piece, and we're going to make the lining panel. So what you want to do is you want to line it up. Each pocket piece is going to go in about, I have 2 3/4 inches in the pattern instructions. Sometimes it's 2.5 inches. It all just depends on what you did for your seam allowance. So you can go ahead and just clip it at between like 2.5 to 2 3/4 inches in. So what I'm talking about is, so if this is lined up here, let me move this up a little bit. So if it's 2 inches, maybe I am overlapping by about 2.5 to 2 3/4. So I'm going to do that on each side and clip it, and then I'm going to measure it. The important thing is you want your final piece to measure 16.5 inches wide. So once I do that, then I will just take it to the edge of my cutting mat, measure over, and right now I'm just shy of 16.5. So I'm just going to move these out a teeny bit, not even like 1/4 of an inch probably. And I think that probably will make me right at 16.5. So I will just double check that one more time. So lined up at the edge of my cutting mat, all the way over. Yeah, so that is 16.5 inches there. So now once you get your panel to the exact width that it needs to be, you're going to baste across the top edges here, baste across there, and baste across the bottom here. And so this is going to make kind of a floppy lining panel, but that will hold all of these pieces together, and then we'll be ready for the final assembly. All right, so I got that basted. My side pockets are attached to the lining piece. As you can see, it's kind of a, you know, a floppy lining there. So you just want to make sure it's nice and lined up flat. Laying that the outer panel, you're going to lay that down. And if it's directional, just make sure you have the top and the bottom, and then the top. This is the top with the pocket to the left and the bottom. So you're going to flip it over and you're going to line it up. Once you get everything lined up all the way around, you're going to clip it in place. All right, so now that you have it clipped in place, your option here is if you want rounded corners, you can use the little template that is provided in the pattern, lay it down. You can go ahead and trace, or you can just trim your corner. Okay, you're going to do that around to all 4 corners. Okay, now that you have all 4 corners curved, like I said, that's an option. You don't have to curve your corners if you don't want to. But once you have this part completed, now you're going to stitch all the way around at 3/8 of an inch, all the way around. And you don't need to leave a birthing hole because of the way this is made. This will be your birthing hole here. So you will stitch all the way around, and I will meet you right back. Okay, the final step before turning it through and putting your cover in is to do any extra trimming. So if you have a little extra, like I said, it's about 3/8 of an inch. So this is up to you. If you want to trim off about half of the seam allowance all the way around, you are more than welcome to. You don't have to, but I think for me anyways, this makes it a little nicer on the inside and not so bulky. Part once we get that done is we're going to clip the corners. So with scissors, you're just going to add a few snips up to that stitch line, but be careful not to cut your stitch. Don't cut your stitch line, just cut it around so you have a couple little snips in it. I think you can see that there. Okay, we're going to do that on each corner. And this is just going to help it lay nicely once it turns through. All right, so there we go. We got all that done. Now it's time to turn it through. We're going to reach to the inside. So your hand can go all the way through. You're going to reach in, grab the inside of this pocket, and pull it through. Pushing this other pocket panel through this way. Make sure you poke out the corners. If you need a little pointy turny tool, a pencil, or a crochet hook, or knitting needle, or a stiletto, whatever you have, you can push that through. Usually I find with just my finger it works pretty well since we snipped that corner. All right, so once you got that, all pushed through, you are done. Make sure everything is laying nice and flat and nice and neat. If you want to, give it one more final press, and then we're going to put the composition notebook inside. So if you're using it for a notebook cover, just grab a standard composition notebook, which is 9.75 inches by 7.5 inches. You're going to put the back side in, and then front side in, of course. And there you go. All right, so now that we have that completed, I'm going to go over the simple additional steps or modifications for the different types of notebook covers that I have listed in the pattern. Two of them will be pretty simple. The zipper part will have a little bit more instruction involved, and I will notate the timestamps for each of these in the comments, so if you just want to zoom ahead to that, you can feel free to do that. All right, if you are doing the elastic closure, you will need a strip of double or fold over elastic, or an elastic of your choice. As you can see, there's one side that is shiny and one side that is flat. This is going to be the top or the outside of the elastic. So what you're going to do is you're going to flip it over so the shiny side is down. You're going to line it up 2 inches in from the left side, and you're going to clip it in place. Be careful not to pull or stretch the elastic at all. You just want it laying down nice and flat. You're going to baste along both sides. All right, so now that that is basted down, this is going to make sure this is on the left side, which is going to end up being the back side of your cover. You're going to take your lining, your completed lining piece, and you're going to flip it down again. So this is the top, this is the top. You're going to flip it down so they are right sides together with the zipper pocket towards the right. This may seem a little bit backwards, but once the cover closes and then you pull that elastic around to the front side, everything will be just as it should be. So now what you're going to do is the final assembly, which is the exact same as you would do for the standard notebook cover. So go ahead and complete those steps. Okay, now if you're making the snap version, the snap tab version of the cover, you're going to need your snap tab, and I have already installed the interfacing to the inside, keeping it out of the seam allowance so it's a ½ inch short all the way around. What you're going to do is you're going to fold this in half. It doesn't matter which way you go because we're just trying to find the center point. So give it a press. So now that you see where your center line is, you're going to measure in 0.75 inches. Let's see, I think I'm gonna flip it around to this side because I want this side to be the front of the pocket. So 0.75 inches in, and with a heat erasable pen, I'm going to mark, let's see, I want it centered. So that's this is 3 inches wide, so 1.5 inches in. I'm going to make a little dot. So it's 0.75 inches up from that fold line and centered. This is where you're going to install, you can install whatever snap version, snap model you have. I'm just using a magnetic snap. So here, what I do for that is I use the washer and I mark these straight lines on the piece. You're going to take your seam ripper, stick it in one of the holes, carefully cut to the end of the stitch line or the marked line. Same thing on the other side. If you don't do this very often and you feel a little nervous about it, that you might just all of a sudden just go way too far, one option is you can put a pin in right there. so that when you put your seam ripper in and you go up, it won't go any further because you'll be hitting the pin. So that's one way, one little safety measure that you can do if you're nervous about making these holes. So now once you've done that, what you want to do is you want to take your male part of the snap and you're going to stick it through those holes. On the back side, optionally, you have the choice to add a little bit extra. I like to use Decoville Heavy here. I'm going to make those same holes in this piece. And that just helps to give the tab, the snap on the tab, a little bit extra support, since if it's going to be used a lot, there'll be some wear and tear there. So you just put that down and then you put the washer on that side, and you can, I like to push the tabs out to the side. You can also fold them in if you want. And then there's that part of your snap installed. So now we're going to fold it in half, right sides together. So your snap's on the inside. You can clip it in place if you like, but what we're going to do is we're going to stitch down either side at 1/4 of an inch. So just go ahead and stitch down, leave this open because we're going to turn this through, and you don't have to stitch this side because it's a fold, so it's already closed, so just stitch down the 2 sides. All right, optionally, you can just trim a little bit off the corners here for turning it through. You don't have to since it's flat, but I like to sometimes just to keep a little bit extra out of that corner. You're going to reach in and turn it through. All right, once you get that turned through, make sure your corners are out. You can use a pen or another pointy tool to make sure they're how you want them. Okay, once they are, you're going to give it a nice press to make it nice and flat. Optionally, you can top stitch all the way around here if you want to. You don't have to, but it does give it a little bit of a nicer finish. So if you would like to do that, go ahead and top stitch that. If you've already done that, or if you don't want to top stitch it, what we're going to do is attach it to the left side of the outer panel. So finding the center of your tab, you can always fold it in half. Press it so you have that mark. You can mark it with a pen. Same thing on your outer panel. Just make a little mark there in the center. Now you're going to attach your tab to the side of the panel, matching up those center marks. And you're going to do it so that it is right sides together and the snap is facing up. You're going to clip those in place. And then you're going to baste across that side. So let's go ahead and do that. Meet me back here and then we'll install the other part of the snap over on this side. Okay, so we have that basted in place on the left side of the outer pocket. What we're going to do now is install the other half of the snap to the right side of the outer pocket. So what you want to do again is find the center of your panel, just matching up those edges. Give it a little finger press to find your corner, find your center. You can mark it. Let's see, let me mark it with a different color pen here so I don't lose it. Okay. Now you're going to, according to the pattern instructions, mark a line that is right along that center mark, and you're going to do it right there. So you can also measure up to make sure it should be, if your panel is 11 inches tall, it should be right at the 5.5 mark. And it is 2¼ inches in. That's where I put this one. If you think you're going to use a lot of stuff inside, you can always make it a little less. You can put it at 2 inches. If you think you're going to keep it pretty narrow and minimal, you can always go up to 2.5 inches. That's just a little modification. That's totally up to you. So from there, where I made that, I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. So let me see. I just lost it. 2 1/4 and 5 1/2 up. Where am I? 1 2 1/4. There we go. 3-inch ruler sometimes is, oh, yep, right there. It blends in really well with that flower. So what I'm going to do is make those lines again. I'm going to, with my seam ripper, again, just cut those couple little holes for the prongs to go through. I'm going to take the other half of my snap, push it through. Okay, on the back side, again, another piece of Decoville Heavy. I'm going to add just for a little extra support. Install the washer, push the prongs over. Now another thing that I like to do here is just to add a little piece of duct tape over that. And what that does is that it keeps it, because this is going to be the inside of your panel, and your composition notebook will be going in and out when you are putting the notebook in or replacing the notebook. So it could have the potential to get caught underneath here. The cover of your notebook could get caught underneath here. So just to help to avoid that, and so that this doesn't, mark up your notebook or anything like that, I just add a piece of duct tape right over the top of that. And then that should hold it, and that should keep it protected, and it should make it so that your cover goes in and out nicely. All right, so that is all you have to do for the snap tab. The rest of the assembly is the same as the standard version. So I will go ahead and do that and be back to show you the final product. All right guys, welcome to the video instructions for the zipper assembly. Now before we get to installing the zipper, there are a few additional preparation steps that you need to complete. On the zipper, you will need to, on the closed end, so what I'm saying is the closed end of the zipper, so the flat end of the zipper pull, at that end, you're going to just back stitch a couple times just to help hold this in place. You're also going to mark at 1.5 inches down. You're going to open up your zipper teeth, and you're going to just fold it and do a little tack down stitch so that you have the right angle, and you're going to do the same thing to this side. So that's provided in the pattern instructions. You're going to do that to your zipper to get that ready first. The next thing you need to do is round the corners of your lining and your outer. So we're going to round those corners first. I'm just going to line them up and do it at the same time. All right, so once you get all your corners rounded, you can set your lining panel aside for now. We won't need that just yet. With your outer panel, what you're going to do is apply double-sided tape all the way around. Actually, before you do that, what you might want to do is just go ahead and find the center. So just give it a nice little press there. That's going to help when we get to putting the zipper on. So finding the center of your panel. Now you're going to go ahead and lay the double-sided tape. Actually, I'm going to use the 1/8 inch size tape. And I'm going to lay it all the way around, right at the edge here. All right, now we're going to remove the tape off of the sticky part. now that I have that off, you're going to take your zipper, separate it all the way down, which is why you need this little piece to hold it in place. And with your two ends that have the 90-degree angles, what you're going to do is you're going to flip it over, and you want the piece with the 90-degree angle up, and you want the teeth down, and you want the zipper tape to the outside. So what we're going to do is we're going to line it up very close to that center mark, and then we're just going to lay it down all the way around. Now when you get to the corners, you have an option. You can ease it in, or if it's a little bit easier, what I like to do is I'll just make a couple little, maybe eighth of an inch or so, a couple little snips. And this double-sided tape is really sticky. I will make a couple little snips so that I can just ease it around the corner a little. It just makes it a little bit easier to ease it around that corner when you have those snips in it. So I'm going to go ahead, continue laying it down all the way to the next corner. Again, adding some snips. Okay, then I'm going to stop. Guys, this is really, I mean, it's good, but it's so sticky. Okay, so we're gonna stop 1 inch before you get to that center mark. So I usually like to just put a little clip there just to hold it and to help me remember to stop stitching. Now we're gonna do the exact same thing around to the other side. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to baste stitch this zipper in place all the way around at 1/8 of an inch right along the edge of that zipper. We're going to start here at this clip, stitch all the way up, all the way across, and all the way down to this one. It's fine if you go straight across here. Okay, so we'll do that, and then I'll meet you back right here. All right, guys, so we basted that all the way around. Now what we want to do is we want to flip our zipper up so it's out of the way when we install the lining. So if you want to, you can, if your zipper was all the way at the end, you can bring it up a little bit. You just want to bring it up. I know it looks a little wonky, but you want to leave it up like this. Now it's up to you if you want to add a pin just to hold it in place, just to make sure it stays out of the way. You can do that there. Now what you're going to do is you're going to grab your lining panel. And so this is the top, right? This is the top of your outer and the bottom. Same lining, outer, bottom, so that the panel is to the left, the zipper pocket panel is to the left. Now what you want to do is just flip it over so your tops match up. You still have your zipper pocket to the right, and then here at the bottom again. So now what you want to do is you're going to clip it all the way around, but again you're going to leave that center inch and a half. It should be anywhere between like 1.5 inches to 2 inch opening right there. So you're going to leave that unsewn. So what you want to do is you're going to line this up. You might want to line the corners up first. Sometimes I clip those corners just to help keep everything in alignment. And you might have to push, you know, push your zipper to the inside there. Make sure it stays out of the seam area, the stitch line area. All right, so you're going to line that up. And again, marking, if you have your center mark on your outer, you can always mark 1 inch over that way and 1 inch over this way. So you know this is your start and stop point. You're going to stitch all the way around to that starting point, all the way around to your stopping point, leaving that little opening right there in the center. All right, so I'm at the sewing machine. I'm going to start at that first mark, stitching at 1/4 inch. And as you go, just kind of feel your zipper, make sure it's nice and flat, make sure you can feel your teeth off to the left. And as you get to the corners, go nice and slow around that corner so you get the nice curved edge. You might also have to reach inside and push that zipper teeth out of the way. So just kind of feel as you go all the way around. All right, so I stitched all the way around, leaving that turning hole. And what we're going to do now is take some scissors. Let me grab my scissors real quick. We're going to snip off this edge, this extra tape here. Okay, and then also optionally, you can add some snips in the corners to help make the turn a little bit easier. All right, there we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to reach through on the inside. Let me zoom out a little bit. All right, we're going to reach through on the inside, pull it through. Turn it completely right side out. Pushing the corners through. All right, straighten it out there. Now what you will notice is along the top, you have a nice seam here where the zipper goes in nice and flat. And at the bottom, just trim out these couple strings. At the bottom, you have this opening here. So what you're going to do is unpin your cover, your zipper tape from the cover. You're going to bring your zipper teeth together and you're going to push this to the inside. So what I find is a little easier is if I just reach to the inside here then I can help to pull this to the inside. That just makes that part a little bit easier. Now what you're going to want to do, this part is a little bit tricky. You want this to be in as far as you can, but obviously your zipper teeth, your zipper pull needs to be out so it can be closed. You don't want that closed in the seam. So you're going to have to play with it a little bit. Keep your edges folded in. You can pull the teeth out a little bit, pull the pull out, I mean, a little bit. You can pin this. You can use some double-sided tape. You can use some fabric glue. I'm going to use a couple clips here to hold it. Okay, that just barely holds it. So then I'll just look around, make sure everything is looking good. As you can see, that is the bottom. Okay, it will be this way when finished. All I need to do now is close up that hole. So I'm going to just do a little stitch, a little top stitch right here from where that hole starts, you know, about 1 inch on that side to about 1 inch on this side. So once I have it nice and flat, I will, now this is the tricky part because you need to keep this zipper pull out of the way. If it helps, you can always use a zipper foot to help you get a little bit closer to that. You could also try to just curve it up or just pull it out of the way. Whatever you find works best for you to get past where that is. All right, so now once you have that done, you can go ahead and trim off any loose strings. And then go ahead and let's meet back at the cutting board and I will show you the final step. All right, so I'm back at the sewing table. What I did is I just turned it back, wrong sides out, so you can see this extra zipper tape. Now, if you don't want this much extra, I like this much extra just because it gives me enough to reach through and pull and hold and keep it out of the way. If you feel that you don't need that much, and you make another one, feel free to make this zipper tape shorter. What you're going to do now is you're just going to snip off the end of that extra zipper. And if you want to, just be careful because you're close to the edge here. You can just singe the end of that zipper tape slightly so that it doesn't fray. Now what you'll do is just turn it back through again. There you go. You got nice edges. You're going to go ahead and give that a nice press, and then we will stick the notebook in it.